Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking kind of a unique journey. We're diving into a short story called Gina, which is part of a series by Max Jones. Now, our goal isn't really to critique the genre itself, but more to, peel back the layers, see what insights we can find about human connection, maybe personal transformation, and those lines between professional and personal life, how they can blur.
That's exactly right. This isn't about judging the work. It's really an analytical exploration. We're going to navigate this narrative, which, yes, involves intimate relationships and scenes, but we'll approach it like any complex text, focusing on the dynamics, the characters' motivations, their arcs. We'll do this without going into explicit detail or, using inappropriate language. Think of it as looking at the human stuff, using the story as our guide.
Okay, so if you're ready to explore how a situation that seems straightforward can lead to some pretty profound self-discovery, let's unpack this. So the story kicks off with our narrator. And this guy, he already has quite a bit of history with the Bailey family. Turns out he's been involved with 3 of the 4 sisters. There's Lena, it was a longer-term thing. Then Nellie, more of a brief holiday fling, apparently. And Vella, just a one-off encounter, partly because she was quite young at the time. So, yeah, quite the track record.
Right, and what immediately stands out, I think, is how he sees Rosa, the 4th sister. Despite, his past with the others, Rosa is positioned as this almost idealized figure, sort of unattainable in his mind. He definitely wants to connect with her, but things just haven't lined up for him to pursue that. It creates this undercurrent, doesn't it? A sort of longing that feels different from his other, maybe more casual relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And that specific longing, that kind of unresolved thing, it really sets the scene for what happens next, which is totally unexpected. The catalyst is tragic, actually. The sister's father, Guy, dies suddenly in a road accident. Awful event, obviously. But it's this event that unexpectedly brings Rosa and her mother Gina right into the narrator's world. They need business advice.
And this tragedy introduces a really fascinating duality in the narrator's motives. You can see it straight away. On one hand, he seems to be offering genuine support, helping them in their grief, which seems decent, but at the same time, he's clearly aware this is his chance, an opportunity to finally get closer to Rosa. It's a very human mix, isn't it? Altruism and, a personal agenda all tangled up. Shows how complex intentions can be.
So the first meeting happens at his flat. They're there to talk about the dad's landscaping company, the books, the future, all that practical stuff. And an interesting detail pops up pretty quickly. Gina, the mother, she's shown to be surprisingly sharp when it comes to business. Like, she's not just sitting there. She's engaged, asks good questions, almost doesn't need as much help as maybe he expected.
That business acumen definitely plays against maybe some initial assumptions you might make about her character. So after that meeting, the narrator offers to mentor Rosa more, suggests she come to his studio to really dig into the business operations. But then Gina makes a move that's, a bit unexpected. She asks if she can come along too, her reason. She says she's interested in understanding his business practices, his accounts. Adds another layer to her, right?
Right. And this is where things really take a turn. While they're talking business, he's looking at Gina, and suddenly, bang.
Yeah.
Here's his idea. See, he'd recently connected with an ad agency needing a model for a fashion campaign, specifically targeting an older demographic. And he looks at Gina, described as this striking woman, late 30s, and thinks, wow, she'd be absolutely perfect for it.
Yeah, and the story mentions her background, too, working in an art gallery for a well-known artist, Richard Enstone. That little detail kind of subtly backs up his assessment, doesn't it? Suggests she might have an eye for aesthetics, or maybe she's comfortable being looked at in a way. So he pitches the modeling idea. Gina's hesitant at first, which makes sense. But then Rosa chimes in, apparently quite playfully, mentions the pay like £500 for a day's work. And Gina, she agrees. Even says she's never modeled before, which shows a certain, openness.
Okay, so the day of the photo shoot arrives. Gina shows up right on time, very professional, looks great. And interestingly, she actually seems genuinely curious about his business accounts, even compliments his profit margin. It seems like that initial business chat really did spark something in her.
Yeah, she's definitely not just there passively, is she? She's engaged on multiple levels. And the shoot concept itself is quite specific. The idea is to take this not particularly nice dress, apparently just a regular high street thing, and make it look appealing, desirable, specifically for a quote-unquote middle-aged audience. There's this little moment where Gina, who's 39, kind of bristles at middle-aged. Understandable. But the narrator smooths it over, assures her she's the perfect age, focuses on her looks, her figure.
And it's around here that we see the narrator's internal world start shifting quite a bit. He finds himself kind of unexpectedly really attracted to Gina, who is, 10 years older than him?
Yeah.
And this attraction directly challenges his usual type, his preference for younger women. So it forces him to sort of confront his own desires, maybe reassess them. It's a personal development moment for him mid-shoot. So the shoot starts, but he notices something's not quite right. Gina's expressions are a bit stiff, posed maybe, not relaxed. Now, he apparently has this technique he sometimes uses with professional models, a preliminary nude session. The idea is it helps him relax, lose self-consciousness, and go more natural on camera. But he hesitates here. He thinks about suggesting it to Gina, but then remembers her connection to Lena, her daughter, his ex. Feels complicated.
That hesitation is key, I think. It shows he does have some professional boundaries, or at least he's aware of the potential awkwardness, the sensitivities involved. But it's actually Gina who brings it up. She seems to sense the issue, that she's not relaxed, and asks him directly how he usually helps models loosen up. And her response when he explains, it's remarkably bold, isn't it? She just decides, okay, let's do the nude session. She emphasizes her trust in his professionalism. It says a lot about her taking control, her willingness to step way outside her comfort zone for the sake of the project.
So yeah, the session happens. She removes her clothes, including what the narrator notes is sexy underwear. He tries to maintain his professional photographer's eye, focusing on, capturing her confidence, her natural form. The text frames it through his lens, not just talking.
And the effect on Gina is described as really transformative. You see this visible boost in her confidence almost immediately. It's like shedding those inhibitions, even in that specific, professional, but vulnerable setting, allows her real self-assurance to come through. And apparently, this completely changes her performance. The subsequent campaign shots, flawless.
Yeah.
It really suggests that this act, this vulnerability, was incredibly empowering for her. Liberating, even.
Right. So the campaign shots are done. They're great. They're having coffee afterwards, winding down. And then Gina reveals she wants something else, something more. She asks for another nude photograph. But this one is deeply personal, just for her, completely separate from the ad campaign.
And her reason for wanting this photo is quite profound, actually. She explains it's symbolic for her. It represents moving out of the grief from her husband's death, moving into a new phase of life, one that feels more liberated. She even has specific ideas for black accessories, like a hat, gloves, and necklace against a black background. Very deliberate, very symbolic.
The narrator, now fully in artistic mode, makes adjustments. He poses her hands to cover certain areas, arranges a black beaded necklace. He's consciously trying to make the composition more, the text says erotic, but also artful, creating a specific mood. And then right after he gets to the shot, this really pivotal, perfect shot, there's this intimate moment. Gina gently kisses him. And his physical reaction is immediate. It's undeniable. That moment clearly signals they've crossed a line, moved way beyond just photographer and model.
Yeah, that's the point where the professional boundaries completely dissolve, isn't it? The narrative then transitions into a consensual, intimate encounter, and it's explicitly stated that Gina initiates it. We get the sequence of events from the narrator's perspective, focusing on the dynamic between them, the sensations, his observations about her experience and skill. It's portrayed as this very deep, uninhibited connection that's forming between them.
He mentions choosing a specific position, the missionary position, and then they move to the bed that's apparently in his studio. The climax of it all is described in terms of, intense pleasure and a powerful connection for him. It clearly had a profound impact on him physically and maybe emotionally too.
And in the aftermath, those quiet moments, he offers this really revealing bit of introspection. He talks about feeling completely spent, physically depleted, but he also reflects on how fleeting that kind of intense pleasure always is for him. He notes this unique sadness that often accompanies it. It's quite a raw, honest thought, isn't it? Hinting at something more complex than just physical release, a sort of post-peak melancholy.
Yeah, it is. And that leads him right into his final thoughts about his life, his work as a photographer. He makes this statement. He says he makes love through the lens, which implies this sort of artistic, maybe even detached connection doing the act of photography itself. Like his primary intimacy is visual, creative.
Right. But then he draws this distinction, which is really fascinating. He distinguishes that artistic process from any subsequent physical intimacy, and he states that physical intimacy only happens if the client wants it, which, wow, that raises a really provocative question, doesn't it, about his whole philosophy. How does he view the lines between art, emotion, physical relationships? Where do his boundaries, if he really has firm ones, actually lie? Makes you think.
It really does. So what does this all mean for us listening to this deep dive into Gina? It really shows how source material can surprise you. right? We start with a business meeting, seems straightforward enough, and it just unfolds into this incredibly profound personal and, yes, physical journey. It's a really powerful example of how unexpected connections can just spark, and the complex ways people navigate things like grief, desire, and ultimately self-discovery.
Absolutely. And what's really striking here is how the story explores vulnerability, but not as weakness, as a pathway to empowerment. Gina's choices, deciding to do the nude session, asking for that deeply personal photograph. These weren't just about how she looked for the camera. They seem to have fundamentally shifted her inner state, triggered this kind of personal renaissance, all sparked by a very unconventional experience.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it, about how our views of ourselves and others can change so quickly, so dramatically, and how just one moment, even one that starts with something mundane like asking for business advice, can somehow open a door to profound personal liberation.
Which brings us to a question for you, the listener, to maybe reflect on. How do you see professional and personal boundaries blurring or intersecting in unexpected ways, maybe in your own life or stories you know? And how do challenging experiences, like the one Gina navigates here, sometimes create the very space we need for real, deep personal growth?
Definitely something to mull over as you go about your day. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.